Greetings, Lewis. Welcome to another video. Deck report week 5. Uh, this week is a little bit different. I did not be able to go to locals this week. But what I mean by that is I did go to locals, but I did not play in any tournaments whatsoever. I got sick during the week, which made it really hard for me to actually play at locals, and I had other life obligations. However, I did go to the sneak peek of Phantom Nightmare. You can see it here by the field center. Every time a new sneak peek happens, we're just going to change the field center and we're just going to show it for the current season. So when we started this channel, we did it when Photon Hypernova was legal. Then we switched it around. Uh, these are the current ones that we have right now. I think I'm missing the one from Cyberstorm Access. But yeah, here's Photon Hypernova, here's Duelist Nexus, here's Age of Overlord, and now we have Phantom Nightmare. So we're just gonna keep collecting these. And so now we're in Nightmare season, in Phantom Nightmare season, which means the Season of Fire. So I did participate on the sneak peek event. I did open my booster packs. I pulled Goblin Biker Gabonga and I pulled Poplar. So those were really good pulls for my entry packs. I already sold them both. That way you cannot see them here right now. But I might post pictures in the community channel just to prove that I actually did pull them. I tested against a couple of decks involving the newer format. I have not done in-depth testing against the Fire King Snake Eye deck as of yet. So take very special note when I'm showing you this deck profile. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to just show you the deck and then we'll explain the changes and ratios, etc. So I'm still playing Centurion. So Primera, Trudea, Emeth, that's the standard 7. That's not gonna change anytime soon, especially since I did try Desires, but I'm not playing Desires anymore. I'll explain that. Still 3 Crow, still 3 Veilers. I'm not playing any other hand trap right now, unless you want to count the Bystials, which I am still playing 3. So 2 Druids, 1 with 1 mana. So 6 hand traps. I'm not playing the other hand traps anymore. Now we're going to segue something new from my last stream. I'm playing 3 Lobelion. I'm still playing the 3 Mseti. I'm playing the 1 Horus Happy. I will explain that. Triple stand-up, triple emblema, 2 Sarks, 1 new addition from Post Phantom Nightmare, 2 walls of the Imperial Tomb, 3 talents, 1 thrust, 1 terraforming, 1 regained, 1 called by, 1 bonds. And the last card in the deck is 1 Phalanx. Right now, the total is 42 cards in the main deck. Extra, Artemis, Dark, SP, Angel, Baron, Legatias, Crimson Dragon, Calamity, Ding, Vampire, 38, 68, Typhon, and a new addition to my extra right now is Chaos Archfiend. Shoutouts to Diego from EJ Gaming, Battle 12. He's the one who recommended this. I tried it twice. I'm testing, and it was actually really good. Um, I can explain everything now. I'll explain. I don't have an actual side deck, but I do have cards to consider, and which I will talk about in a moment. So the concept behind the three Lubellions and the Imperial Tombs. I start with Lubellion first, and I guess we can talk about the lack of hand traps compared to like the last list. So we're going to enter a format where hand traps are either crucial or they're going to be a liability. What I mean by that is the strongest deck in the room is going to be Snake Eyes or something with the Snake Eyes engine, and the Snake Eyes engine can play through hand traps. However, there are choke points where they can stop. They can be stopped if you do multiple hand traps. So, in order to circumvent like that issue, you have to make two choices. Either like vomit your main deck with a bunch of hand traps and make sure that you have enough of them to just stop your opponent, or play a good amount of board breakers uh, that can also punish them. And I tried the full board breaker approach as well as the full hand trap approach, and I just found issues with just both as a whole. Uh, like if I play too many board breakers, uh, I might just end up losing to decks that can just go second against me, and they just break through my board with their engine because I just drew too many board breakers, and they're probably not effective against every matchup. If I play too many hand traps, I did equalize the game, but I'm now relying on my one card starters, which are only 13 of them, to actually play the game. And if your opponent also has hand traps or other forms of interruptions, it just becomes a war of attrition of who can top deck the best with their engine. And that I just found that like very very like not uncomforting, but it's just like very awkward. So I just went with an approach that is kind of like a mixture between both, and that's where the Bystials come in, and as well as Lubellion. So by playing Lubellion in my deck, I have an extender that can fulfill my win condition for my Centurion cards if I get hand trapped. But at the same time, this adds me my bestial monsters, which can also serve as like hand traps against specific matchups. You notice how I'm playing 3 Crow and 3 Evader. Uh, I think Crow is really good right now. I think this is one of the not much talked about cards in this format, but against a few of the newer decks, this card is actually really effective. For example, Voiceless Voice is a deck that debuted right now with Phantom Nightmare, and that deck has a few key plays that just outright loses to Diddy Crow. Not only do they lose to Diddy Crow, but if they don't play into like if they play into your cards, they get punished by Bystials as well. So by doing this, I have 6 hand traps that just freeze my opponent's graveyard if they're playing light or dark decks. But at the same time, I'm playing cards that also serve as part of my engine. The reason I'm playing Crow and Veiler specifically is because they're light and dark attribute, meaning that they can serve as fodder for my bestial effects if I'm playing against a non-light or dark deck or a deck that just does not summon light or dark monsters. Uh, Even against the Snake Eye deck, the Bystials are fine because they do summon Linkuriboh as part of their key plays. They also play the Diabell Star Witch, which is another monster you can banish with these. Uh, they they also play like IP Masquerena, which is part of their key play, where they try to just spawn it back with Flamberge. You can also banish that. Uh, in the off chance they end up with a setup involving SP Little Knight in the graveyard for Amblo Whale, you can also punish them by summoning a Bystial, and they just lose their SP Little Knight. So overall, I think that in testing, like the Bystials have been doing very well. Also, the reason I really like the Bystials right now is because it gives you access to Chaos Angel as well as Baron the Floor. And Chaos Angel, more specifically, is a lot stronger than Baron because if you can make it with Primera and a Bystial, like you're pretty much putting your opponent on better have your spell or trap cards or utility board breakers to get rid of this card, or they just outright lose to this because moving forward they cannot get rid of this card, and then every single synchro that you just keep summoning after Chaos Angel just becomes like very problematic for your opponent. Like some decks just outright lose to this card. And that's a really cool win condition that you can give yourself in this deck besides just the Calamity Lock. Also, like making Chaos Angel your opponent's turn by using Druid's Worm is also really, really strong. So that's one of the key things about the Bystials. Another thing that I want to add is when it comes to Centurion, the main purpose behind the Bystial and the Horus cards are to have other forms of extenders that can get you to Legatia if you get hand trapped. Like with Bobelion being level 8, the Horus monsters being level 8, you can just access them with Primera, make the Legatia, and then just have the Legatia Crimson Dragon setup, or like Legatia setup in general. And you can still do it under in first summons, so you don't lose to Nibiru. Another really cool thing is that there are setups where you just end on both Legatia plus Lubellion with Branded Regain. And Branded Regain is really cool because it just keeps giving you more card advantage. Like just drawing you cards, summoning back your Magnamut, giving you a potential option to endanger your opponent with Chaos Angel. Give you recursion, give you follow up. So that was just like my theory behind all of this. Post Legacy of Destruction, this strategy is like future proof because the newer Centurion monsters are Dark Dragon monsters, which means they work well with the Bystials as well. And it just gives you more purpose for your other plays with Lubellion and so on and so forth. I think the Horus cards are still really powerful. Now we have a consistency card for them. Pretty much with the Imperial Tombs, you have the ability to just search your Horus cards. So now the engine is a lot more consistent. This is weak into draw. However, the way you try to play with this deck is you try to go towards your main Centurion line. And if you don't get drolled, then you can use Imperial Tombs and just set up for the Horus plays. Another really cool thing about this card is that now we have pretty much extra copies of the King Sarcophagus. So if you go second and your opponent just gets rid of their sarcophagus, and you have the Imperial Tombs, you can use the Imperial Tombs and just have it treat as sarcophagus. So just you're making your opponent waste your resources for the inevitable Horus monsters that you're just summoning. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the logic behind that. I think this engine is really, really strong. Will I keep playing it? I'm still in the testing phase. Another really cool thing about Imperial Tombs is that it pretty much grabs your redundant cards or your bricks and just like put them back into your deck. So you don't have to worry about those cards in your hand, or just like you can get access to them through other means. Just to name one or two things. So that's pretty much the explanation behind the main deck at the moment. Uh, like TLDR, we're in a format where people are leaning more towards board breakers. However, board breaker approach is not 100% effective, meaning that I just want to make sure that I have a stable engine for my deck, but at the same time, I have utility against my opponent's decks. So now that we covered the main deck, I'm gonna talk about like potential cards. Some of these cards are already my side deck. Like for example, you already know about Droll. You already know about Cosmic. You already know about deck Lockdown. You already know about Solemn. So let's put a few other cards here. So the first card I guess I want to talk about, at least one of them that I want to talk about, is a new card from Phantom Nightmare, and that card is Iron Thunder. So essentially what this card does is if any spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, you negate it by paying half your life points, and anything that's in the same column as Iron Thunder just gets blown up. So it's basically a combination between Sullen Judgment and Fuse Line. So it's basically a Solemn mixed with Fuse Line, and that's pretty cool because essentially, if you play this alongside Sullen Judgment, you have like 6 cards that can just stop your opponent's main key cards that can break your board. The biggest weakness of Centurion is not really hand traps, it's not, but more so board breakers. And these cards are just really strong against board breakers. So that's one thing that you can do. I've already explained deck Lockdown. If your opponent is is playing Cosmic Cyclone, they pretty much have to make a choice between getting rid of the Floodgate or getting rid of your win condition of your deck. And if you're playing your win condition of your deck and they're not stopping it, you have a very significant advantage over your opponent. So just playing a Floodgate, like pretty much just puts them on the spot, especially if you pair them up with these cards. So one other card is Denko Seka. So pre Phantom Nightmare, I felt this card was fine because Labyrinth is still your worst matchup, and this card plays really well into Labyrinth, and this card also plays really well into Rescue Ace. The other really cool thing about this card is that it is a level 4 light monster. So alongside the Bystials, it can make you the Chaos Angel. And it pretty much gives you the Chaos Angel access with Light and Dark. So that's like another theory that I thought about when it came to Denkoseka. Like against some specific decks, like more roguish decks that just play a good amount of back row, this card is just a good card to consider. I thought about Nibiru. The main reason I'm not playing Nibiru is because I feel like Nibiru is awkward against certain matchups. The Snake Eye Fire King deck and the Snake Eye deck can play around this fairly easily. And this card is not like it doesn't work against every matchup either. But it is a light monster. This plus Effect Veiler can make Legatia, which is something that they come up in testing. Overall, not a bad card. If you pair it with Bestial Druid Swarm, you get rid of whatever token you're making with the Nibiru, so your opponent has you pretty much empty out your opponent's entire board with this. So another thing to consider, especially if you're playing the Horus engine, is Duamotef alongside the Flame Deity. I already made a video talking about the Flame Deity, but if your deck cannot afford to play this in the main deck, you play it in the side deck, and basically you put your opponent on better not stop your Sarcophagus plays, because the moment they stop your Sarcophagus and this is on your hand, they just get punished. Another really cool thing is going second. This card is really strong because if you do have the Sarcophagus alongside a Horus monster, or you have the Imperial Tombs, you just get rid of a card from your opponent for free. If your opponent respects your engine, then they won't fall into this card. However, you're going to put them in a very awkward position because this card just applies a lot of pressure against your opponent. If your opponent does not respect if your opponent does respect the Horus cards, and they just try to get rid of your Sarcophagus immediately, then they get punished by Black Flame. So I found that really cool. So like if you're playing the Horus cards and you want to play like the board breaker approach and not the hand trap approach, then you should be maining this card. If not, then this is perfectly fine in your side deck. Ash and Droll, I feel like should be somewhere in your deck. If they're not in your main deck, it should be in your side deck. Ash is kind of mediocre against the Snake Eye deck. However, against like all the non-fire matchups, ironically, this card should be fine. And like you don't want to risk losing yourself against like a rogue deck that can just do degenerate things, like for example Dark World and Tier Elements and stuff like that. So just having these 6 cards help. There's a few other cards that I do want to talk about, but the last card that I'm gonna talk about today is Etude of the Branded. So this card came out in Cyberstorm Access, and Cyberstorm Access. So this card reads: during either player's turn, immediately after its effect resolves, synchro summon one synchro monster using monsters you control as material, including a dragon monster. And you can only use this effect once per turn. If you control a Bystial, banish any monsters that would be sent to your opponent's graveyard as tributes for their ritual summon or as materials for their fusion, synchro, or link summon. So against any Snake Eye variant, this card is really, really strong because it's pretty much a floodgate for their for their effects or for like their summons. Against Voiceless Voice, this card is also really strong because their main win condition is tribute summoning for ritual monsters. So just having them being banished, like just empties out their resources fairly a fair amount. Another really cool thing about this card is if your opponent tries to contest your stand-up Centurion, you have another way to synchro summon. And the really cool thing about this card is it does not say on which phase you do your synchro summon. It's not specified for the main phase. You can do it on any phase. So even during the battle phase, you can just flip this card and just synchro into something in your opponent's turn, as long as you're using a Bystial. If you use Bystial Obelion, you can get to your 12s. So you can do your Crimson Dragon line. If you use your 6s, you can just access to Chaos Angel as well as Baron, which is still very strong. Post Light of Destruction, this card is also really cool because you will have the Gargoyle Centurion, and that monster can become level 4 or level 8. So as long as you're using a dragon as material, which Gargoyle is a dragon, you can also make other synchro monsters with this card. The only thing that changed out of the extra deck was the Chaos Archfiend. Chaos Archfiend is really strong at breaking boards, especially if you're playing Bystials in your deck. Like, it just becomes a 4500 beater that can just beat over every monster. And if your opponent gets rid of this, yeah, it means that you can summon Chaos Angel. And then the Chaos Angel triggers. Take note that the Chaos Angel won't have its like immunity because you're summoning it with Chaos Archfiend. However, it's still just a free summon that can just banish a card. And it's pretty much like the same situation as the Black Flame Deity. You just put your opponent on a position where if they don't get rid of this card is just going to plow through their entire board. If you actually get rid of this card, you just trigger your flame deity. So that's pretty much it. I hope you found this video informative. I hope you found this to your liking and understanding. This is just another locals report involving like the Centurion deck. As of right now, I'm really liking this deck. I think like for the next format, I'm going to keep playing it despite the huge surgence of fire decks. I feel like despite fire decks being like the stronger decks in the room, they are not like completely unbeatable. You just have to try to cater your main and side deck towards that matchup and just like accustom yourself to the environment. But yeah, keep practicing and keep dueling.